and India did in 2021 in Gabba. Can they do this again at Perth come 22nd November? Keep watching.
Hi everyone, this is Samit from TalksonGround. Hope you're well. So today we are going to review the Adelaide test, which is starting on 6th of December, which is in what 36 hours. For people who are not following this, we are talking about the Border-Gavaskar Trophy 2024 being held in Australia. This is India versus Australia cricket test series. And the first match has already happened in Perth, which India won comprehensively. And now we are heading towards the second test, which is in Adelaide. Now, this is a very important and a very pivotal test match from many, many respects. I, as a cricket fan, as a cricket follower, I don't remember a time when India has gone to Australia or to England where they have not only won the first test, but they look the stronger side, the side that is answering more questions. Because India was under strength in the first test, and they are going into the second test with induction of Gill and Rohit. Shubman Gill was injured just before the first test, and now he's fully recovered. So what we have seen in the first test, first of all, let's put the Perth test victory in perspective. I think the toss played a role. India batted when conditions were not great. The ball was seaming around, but the pitch got faster in the evening because the moisture dries out. So in a way, India got the best of the batting conditions on day one, and then when India came out to bowl the next day, Australia was already seven down and what 65 for seven something. So they were 85 runs behind, and they only had three wickets in hand. And they lost Alex Carey to Bumrah, I think, in the second over's first ball. So that really set them back. If Alex Carey had been there because the wicket had really flattened out, they might have come very close to the first innings total of India. But you see, in that test match, it didn't really, the first 100 overs didn't matter. The reason it didn't matter is because the moment the second day started, the pitch had flattened out. So whoever was going to bat on it was going to make runs, and that is why the ninth and tenth wicket of Australia almost held India to the field for a full session. So when India came to bat, they were not only 46 runs ahead of Australia, denting them psychologically, but the Australian bowlers now had to come back and bowl within a day. So they had bowled India out somewhere middle of the second session, and now they had to come back and bowl, so they didn't get a breather. And remember, this is the first test of the Australian summer, so a lot of their bowlers were undercooked. So what happens when you first get into some kind of a test match like this? The first test is the place where you're the freshest, but also you're not playing test match after test match, so you're not all that geared up for test match cricket. So I thought they were undercooked and they looked a little flat. And then from there on, things became very difficult for them. So the moment India got a 200 run partnership, the match was done. In fact, in a way, psychologically, it was already done when Bumrah had taken those three wickets on the first day because he took out the heart of Australia's batting. They depend a lot on Steve Smith and Labuschagne, and then rely on Head and Marsh to kind of finish off the opposition. But here, Head and Marsh also had to kind of play around and not be too aggressive. Even though Head played his kind of game, and of course, Harshit Rana bowled a really good ball. So I think we should not read too much into what happened in that game in terms of margins and all that. What we should understand is that when India got the ball to bowl, they did well in the first few overs. because of Bumrah and the second spell from Siraj and the first spell of Harshit Rana. But when India came back to bowl the next day, Bumrah didn't bowl as much. Plus, he had already gotten carry out, and Harshit was bowling pretty well. Harshit bowled a lot, which is a good thing in my view, because a young guy, he hasn't played Test cricket, so the more bowling you give him, the more um, Test fit he gets. Now, in the batting of India, and also the practice game that I saw between India and Prime Minister's 11 on 30th November and 1st December, which got curtailed and was just a 46 over a side game. I am a little worried not about KL Rahul. The whole discussion has been about KL Rahul, whether he'll bat it as an opener, whether he'll come down the order, and so on. In my opinion, that is a settled situation because Rohit was not in form. He has just landed in Australia a week back. He hasn't really played much cricket for the last 6 weeks, rather 5 weeks. Because he's not been in form and now there's a pink test, it is better if he comes down the order. And KL Rahul being a confidence player, it's better that you give him a run in this position, at least for this test. He might come off, he might not come off. You will have to see how comfortable both look. So that's not the issue. Neither is Shubman Gill or Virat Kohli or Rishabh Pant. I think the key question is Jaiswal. I know he made 161 runs in the second innings on what was a very flat wicket at that time, and also a very tired, flat looking bowling attack. In fact, I've always found Australia to be a bit flat, whether in 2018-19 or in 2021 or now. And I'll explain that in a minute. And I found that Yashasvi played and missed a lot. Lot of times in test matches, if you do that, I've been following test cricket for like 42 years now. So I have seen that, if a batsman takes up a lot of this play and miss kind of thing, and if he doesn't score big, then a lot of wickets do fall on the other end. And we did see that, after um, I think number three, which was what was his name, Padikkal. The moment Padikkal got out, there was a mini collapse. Now the fact is, India was already 300 runs plus, in fact more than that, 350 ahead. So it didn't really matter. But imagine if the opening stand of Jaiswal and KL was not 200, but 70, which is a good start even then. And some sort of a collapse had happened then. And India had set 300 for Australia to win rather than the 500 India set. So there are a lot of these are very small margins. Overall, India played better. India batted better. India bowled better, fielded better. Their tactics seemed pretty good in terms of the lengths they bowled. India took quick singles and all of that. So India ticked all of those boxes. Where I have a problem with the Indian side is the following. I felt that Jaiswal played and missed a lot, and he looked a bit iffy against the new ball when, especially getting nicked off, and not like in the first innings where he there was a ball to drive and he nicked it, and that's a false shot. I mean, fine. I mean, you can excuse that. I'm talking about a defensive shot, and he played and missed a lot, and uh, he also got one on the head in the Prime Minister's lap. He went not out, so he's in great form. It didn't seem to affect him. Very interestingly, there was not that much of short pitch bowling after that by the Australians, the Prime Minister's 11. And I think he's going to cope a lot of short bowling going forward. And he didn't look great, especially when it was bowled by a right-hand bowler over the wicket, because it's kind of coming to his right shoulder. That's where he looked a little um, uncomfortable. When he has a lot of space on the offside or the leg side, or if it's too high, he's comfortable. But when it's close to his body, it's coming at pace, especially with the pink ball. I'm a little concerned. KL Rahul has now played three continuously good innings, and I will be surprised if he can play a fourth because that's not his pattern. And if he breaks that, that'll be great because India would have found a replacement opener for Rohit Sharma. And I think KL Rahul offers a lot to the team if he's in good form. And his best position in Test match cricket, I think, based on his game, is either six or one. And I think one is even better. Um, and I think even in India, where if he opens, he'll have the ball coming on. He's a timer. He can pick the gaps. So that will be a good thing for Indian cricket. Rohit might be in his last 1 year of 12 months of Test cricket for sure. That's how it looks like. He does seem to be moving slowly. I could be eating my words. He hits a 200 in Adelaide, but that's what it looked like. The other concern I have is that India might pick Ashwin or Washington Sundar for this test match when they ought to pick Jadeja. Though I will be a little concerned about uh, how the roles are getting reversed. You see, a lot of people are talking about what happened in practice, what the 11s will be, uh, what configurations are there, the pink ball, the pitch. I'm going to talk about patterns, which others are not talking about. The pattern is in the last three series, India has played two series that India won. There was one or the other issue with the Australians. In 2018-19, Smith and Warner were not in the team because of that whole ball tampering issue. And 2021, there was Justin Langer, the coach, who was really not liked by the Australian players, and they all ganged up after the series to ease him out. So everything was not hunky dory in the dressing room. Number two, India had Pujara. And what Pujara did was he blunted the Australian attack. And I mentioned this at the very beginning that Australians look very flat when they get to the 45th over. There's no tank, there's no gas in the tank of the fast bowlers. Yes, they're still buzzing you, they're bowling at 140 and all that, but they're not moving the ball. They don't do reverse swing, and these are not reverse swing conditions. So what they're left with is basically line and length bowling or good field placements or mistakes by players, and they just wear people down by banging the ball short and making you play off the back foot all the time. And that's what Cummins does, but he doesn't seem to have uh, like a second gear, if I may. Yes, he does. If Australia needs a wicket, he comes in, bowls a ripper, maybe good length, swinging away, seaming away. But there is not much variety in the Australian bowling. Mitchell Stark is extremely destructive, but he's also erratic. If he has a good day, he could take five in like 15 overs, or he could take none for 25 in 25 overs. So he's that erratic. And that's why Hazelwood was the backbone of the attack because he was the guy who was consistent. He seemed to be able to adjust his length, his line, and his bowling to the conditions and to the batsman. While Stark and Cummins are a bit one trick ponies, if I may, even though Cummins is a great bowler, I think he does lack the skill of a Bumrah who has so many tricks up his sleeve. And as luck would have it, maybe he will prove me wrong and he will take a fight for uh, you know, doing something very different, coming round the wicket. But what I'm saying is he's not like a Wasim Akram who has so many tricks in his armory, swinging it both ways from different angles and actions. He seems a little predictable. So that's the issue that I think has plagued Australia. And then once you got through them, India had the Nathan Lyon problem. Now India seems to be getting over the Nathan Lyon hump, if I may. And Nitish Reddy really went after him. And in the second innings, Indians played around his bowling very easily. There was not much in the wicket, but even when there was, India was attacking him a little more than normal. And I think from what has been seen in the first Test match, the only time I'll worry is when the ball is new. So first 20 overs, India could easily be 50 for 5 and all out 100 or even lesser if they're unlucky. Uh, but if India gets through the first 20 overs, maybe it's 60 for 2, then Australia is in trouble because then India has the batting right up till Nitish Reddy, and they will really, really, make the Australians go around the field. And if that happens, I think Australia is in big trouble. However, this Test match, the pattern has been Australia has won what 7 on the trot in the pink ball in Adelaide. They win the toss typically, or they're inserted in, and they make a big score in the first innings. Then they come back and clean up the other sides, especially in the evening when it's twilight and it swings around. So that's been their pattern. And the fact that I know the pattern, you know the pattern is where I think there's a problem because on day one there is a possibility of a thunderstorm. Now that changes everything because supposing um, Australia wins the toss and they bravely bat first, and they let's say 60 for 2, and then the rain comes down, and suddenly you're right in the twilight zone when the play resumes. So now that 60 for 2 can easily be 90 for 5, and your first innings is done. Typically, that's not what has happened. Now, the same can happen with India. So, India will have to be very careful as to what they do. I think Australia is trying to trick India into picking Ashwin because the pitch will not spin, it'll skid. India would do well to pick Jadeja because he really gets through his overs quickly. Number one, he can keep it tight. He's under pressure from both Ashwin and Washington Sundar from both sides. He batted well in the warm up game. He's hungry and he will be looking to prove a point. After all, his test career is on the line and he's a great player. I mean, after he retires, we will remember him as a great. So I think this is going to be very, very important for India that they really put up the right team on the park and they make the right call. They ought to look at the weather as well because what the weather will do is it'll postpone the quickening of the pitch. And when, just like in the first session of the first day in Perth, when the wicket is a bit slow because of dampness, but it's seaming and swinging around, you can still make runs and you can hang around. India got to 150 because in the first session, KL Rahul played out a lot of balls and he batted well. Even Padikkal did well. I mean, he played out 25 balls. Now, those 25 balls, if he had got the first ball duck, would have to be played by Virat Kohli. And therefore, I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens in Australia, in Adelaide. Australia, on the other hand, doesn't have Hazelwood. He was their cog. I really liked Scott Boland from what I saw of him. He's just the right kind of bowler, especially to trouble the Indian lower order. So leave alone the top order. So India got to be wary of him. And Australia will be raring to go because their media has buried them. Everyone's after their captain, and there's talk of dissent and divide because of Hazelwood's comments. No wonder he's out of the game. And Gavaskar made a snide remark about it. So I will be very, very careful in writing of Australia. Um, what team India takes out on Friday? What team Australia takes out on Friday? Who wins the toss and what's the weather? Might just decide this test match. Honestly, I think if India gets through the first day, slightly ahead, even if not fully ahead. For instance, if Australia bats first, there's rain, whatever, Australia ends the day at 150 for 6, India is ahead. If India bats first and the same conditions are there and India gets to 150 for 4, India is ahead. And from there on, I think India will win the match. But it'll all depend on the openers and the opening spells. Bumrah did great in Perth. That pitch suited him. This wicket is different. This will require some work from Siraj and the new guy Nitish Kumar Reddy because he will swing it around. He could be the surprise package. If Jadeja makes the team, he can stem the tide. If Travis Head gets going or Mitch Marsh gets going. So let's see what happens. My prediction right now is this is going towards 2-0 from a pattern perspective. One all from a conditions and the configurations perspective, and I will stick to the pattern. So it's 2-0 India after Adelaide second test match. This is Samit from Talks on Ground. Hope you enjoyed this. I like your comments and share this around. Subscribe if you like the channel and share the video if you like the content. Thank you. Good night.